A very good morning to you all. Welcome to Sunrise Daily today. I am Chamberlain Uso.
Good morning from Abuja. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.
Well, from the nation's commercial capital, Lagos, it's a beautiful Monday morning. That's right, I'm tired.
And today is the 31st day in the month of October, 2022. Amaya Makinde, good morning and welcome.
Yes, indeed, and it is today that the president will be having this security meeting over what has been going on in different parts of the country. I mean, many of you might have also heard about all the alerts here and there. So he's going to call a security meeting. As a matter of fact, the presidential spokesman, Gabashew, did put up a statement about this particular one, saying that he will meet with security chiefs in Abuja today to further review and strengthen security network in the country. Now, he went on to say that the president was initially scheduled to commission the Naseni New Technology and Innovation Complex, but that will now be put on hold for a later date. So, while that meeting will go on today, or yesterday, the Southeast governors themselves also met, and it was also related to security, where they did ask the federal government to increase security presence in the region. I mean, there was that report about a former SSG who was kidnapped along Enugu Road. So I think that must have formed part of the discussions in that particular area. So that all those scenarios, all just putting together some of the security concerns and how they intend to address it. So we'll be looking to see the outcome of that meeting that will hold today. But the Southeast governor themselves also said they were going to have some sort of patrol, is it a joint patrol of sorts? Who knows? So there you go. So everyone, of course, when it has to do with security, they have to all respond to it.
Indeed, I mean, security is the primary purpose of government, Chamberlain, security and the welfare of citizens. And I think that the first way to, before you can even provide welfare, before I can ask whether you've eaten, I have to be sure that you're safe. So it is good to see that the president is going to be having a security meeting. Perhaps there will also be a review of what has happened in the past last weeks or so. We will also be saying what will happen with the Southeast governors and how what exactly they come up with at the end of the day. I mean, from their own meetings. I do recall that before now, we had been talking about Ibubeagu. Ibubeagu never really fully kicked off. Maybe in one or two states it did. And before that time, Enugu already had forest guards. I do not see that all the states followed suit with the Bubeagu plan. Maybe the opposition to it was pretty stiff, because don't forget that a number of people were arguing at the time that our constitution did not have state police or did not even have regional policing. The people who went to Amotekun had to find a way to pass the laws separately in their different states for Amotekun to be able to stand, even though at the end of the day what they were looking for was regional cooperation. So we'll see how that continues to happen as the governors continue to meet, realizing that security is not something that you can do by yourself and say that, okay, I've done it on my own area, I don't care about your own side. It has to be something that everybody does at the same time. That's the only way that, an entire region can be free or an entire area can be free. So we'll wait to see just what comes out of what the Southeast governors are planning and what exactly the president will also be coming up with. I mean, because oftentimes the service chiefs, they rarely brief, but they will at least talk to journalists as to what exactly the plan will be.
At this time.
Yes, indeed. Because people need to be reassured about, what is going on, and also need to know what is going to happen as we go into an election year.
Absolutely.
And I think that's one of the most important points, really, the people. Yes, we have the president, the governors, those in authority, the security chiefs, and all of them. They have security reports. They have a view, a vantage view. They have, essentially they have a sense of what is happening on the ground. The hotspots, all of the information essentially comes to their table. So for them, it's maybe easy to wrap their heads around, know what decision to make and all of that, with the security reports and the meetings here and there. I mean, the president will have one today, as you said, and it is said in that statement that he will interject in areas he thinks there needs to be improvement. But that's a select few, if I could say, in comparison to the total, population of Nigerians. And I'm talking hundreds of millions of people who do not have an inkling as to what is happening. And I think that's where the information part is quite important. If you go on social media, off social media, go into buses and all that, and hear what people say about security, you realize that there is a huge information gap. Honestly, and naturally, nature abhors vacuum. So people would fill it with different things that they find here and there. And that's another area I think that we also need to pay attention to. There are lots of messages here and there spreading across different platforms about, certain planned attacks, about certain, things happening in the areas of security. And naturally, people will take that to heart and fly with it. Why? Because they don't have some sort of official information, if I could say that, from those in authority. Yes, they see these meetings, they hear the usual, we're on top of the situation, everybody go about your activities, but they then see these other messages. Maybe it drops in their groups, their estate groups, it drops in their work group, or, their old students associations group, and they think, wait a minute, this might be true. So that influences, their mindsets, their panic level and all of that. Fears, exactly. And that has been rampant over the past couple of days. I don't know how well the security agencies, intelligence agencies are also paying attention to this, because whether you like it or not, it has a way of exacerbating the whole situation. So I think that's another area we should pay attention to. I mean, Twitter, for example, you see people speaking for and against the DSS just over the past couple of days and few hours. And I want to imagine that the goal for everyone is to have a safer and secure nation. I mean, whether you're for or against the government, politics is another thing. Probably don't have time to discuss that. Well, whichever way, we all want, I expect that we all want a safer and secure nation. But whatever it is we do, I want us to please, because it's everybody's business, to ensure that we're not spoiling the work that is being done, or at least that we expect to be done with those messages being put around. Yes, we need to ensure that we scrutinize, we question, interrogate security agencies and ensure that they do right by the people and make the very best decisions. But we shouldn't, as people, then mess up the work. It doesn't quite make sense, really.
Well, I completely agree with you, and I think the part where you talk about nature abhorring vacuum should be given a lot more attention by governments. Remember last week, Friday, we had this conversation with the local government chairman in Kaduna State, and the focus of that conversation we had with him was security, essentially asking if we were to decrypt security down the complete ladder, will go as low as local governments, the local government level. The question you want to ask is, this conversation that the president is going to have with security chiefs, or whichever sets of people he wants to have the security meetings with, do they also factor in the local government level of security? Because that is where the people are. I remember that we have a national security strategy of 2019 that is supposedly citizen-centric and not state-centric, so to speak. Is that something that we are looking at in the direction as well, such that, hey, the people are the primary reason here, just as you said, Coyote. But then the meeting that the president is going to be having with the security chiefs or with the sets of people that are going to be meeting with him today, are they going to be talking about how the people perceive whatever it is that government is doing on the one hand, and then two, what kind of trust have we been able to engender between the government, in other words, security agencies, and the people, in order for people to be able to do the needful in cooperating with them? Yes, we often say that security is everybody's business, but then security has a lot more to do with trust this time around, given everything that is happening to people. So I'm hoping that this meeting will also provide that perspective. This meeting happens very frequently these days. Just 2 weeks, there was a meeting held with the president, security meeting held with the president. And down over the past few, if you just Google security meeting President Buhari, you would find so many, across so many weeks and months over the time past. What have we produced? What is it that we tell the president? What does the president need to know that he doesn't know? Is there a conduit so which people can give information to government? Maybe the conduit that we have now is not working. So let's trickle down this whole conversation around security down to the local government level. The Constitution recognizes 774 of them. Let's even start from there. See what we can come up with. Guys?
Yes, indeed. Very well said. So that said, we'll just go on and take a look at some of the dailies in just a moment. All right, welcome back. Let's take you through some of the dailies. We'll start with Abuja Inquirer. So they just follow up directly with some of what we highlighted this morning. It's about security, how Abuja survived under terror alert. Okay, I know many like to hear that. Bars, residents closed early. FCTA delivers operational vehicles to police. Vigilante prohibited from carrying firearms in FCT. So a lot in that dynamics in terms of what's going on and how things are playing themselves out. So you know, some of these things could always have this bandwagon effect. Once you see maybe for instance, when they said Jabi was closed, and you'll always see certain other similar establishments or structures or environments trying to do the same, especially when they look to the security authorities and wait for that kind of messages or reassuring messages. But I think I remember the IGP put up a message saying, look, no such thing, that everyone should stay calm. They were doing what they can. The DSS themselves also said that, well, all of those reports that they said there was what joint patrol with the U.S. Army, that never happened. So that was not the case. But they did say at the end of the day that they're doing what they can and that they are giving similar narratives concerning what was going to happen and how they were able to diffuse quite a number of them, just trying to assure everyone. And then after that, the meeting I'll be holding today. So we'll wait and see, and hopefully that all goes well, as I think, I stand corrected, as it's been going on so far though, but it's always good. Just be vigilant, be aware of what is going on in your environment. It could help. All right, so on to other matters just above this lead story. It's politics. Tinubu will win 2023, says Afenifere as they endorse him. No end in sight with PDP crisis. So there you go. Yet again, crisis in the PDP. But that is new. The Abuja Inquirer today, actually.
Well, Daily Trust has a number of other stories, and just in case you've been wondering about what is going on with the redesign Naira story, they have it for you. CBN has my backing for redesigning Naira notes. That's from the president. I understand he granted an interview where he spoke very clearly about, his approval for that particular plan. Says currency will benefit from initiative. People with illicit money buried under the soil will have a challenge. So that's part of what he said. President's comments put Emefiele, finance minister's rift, to rest. Because don't also forget that the Minister of Finance had said that, they were not consulted about that plan. Looks like, as the CBN did say, they got the president's approval to be able to go ahead with the redesign. Page 4 is where you have all of the details. And look at the picture there, suddenly worth more than 1,000 words. Nigeria's Flamingos edge Germany for first ever World Cup medal.
Oh yeah.
And if you think that's not a big deal, all you have to do is look at how the Germans prepare for anything.
This is a huge deal.
It is a huge deal to have our girls, pick up bronze and it was over a team like Germany, they might as well have won gold.
How long when were the girls even assembled?
Exactly.
Very, very short time, and then they put up that. And remember, Germany beat them at the group stage, and so now they came back and got a pound of flesh. So well done.
Well done to them. Nigeria's under-17 team, girls team, Flamingos, celebrating their FIFA World Cup bronze medal on Sunday after a 3-2 penalty shootout win over Germany in Mumbai, India. So that is also there. Ganduje launches mass transit scheme with 100 buses, 50 taxis. Sometimes you look. Anyways, just go to page 38. Don't let me start a critique. I mean, mass transit scheme, but who knows? Maybe they're really huge buses, you know. So you might want to, you know, go to page 38 to get details of what sort of vehicles are in use. Abuja Rail to resume operations soon as minister meets contractor. That is also there. They have a number of other stories for you on top of the nameplate. Afenifere leaders, Makinde, others endorsed Tinubu. That is also, okay, that's an addition. Makinde. Is that the same Makinde of the governor of Oyo State?
We'll have to double check.
You will have to double check that. So don't assume anything until you've read the story on page 32. Let's leave it there for Daily Trust newspapers.
All right. You know, I can help out with that inquiry. Is it your Makinde?
No. I am not a president.
Okay, so we can
I'm
cross
not a
you.
governor.
We can cross you off that list. So let's cross him off that list. So it's said to be your state governor anyway. But more details on the inside pages. Take a look at Daily Times next. Now that we've taken that out of the way, the Daily Times is next this morning with this lead on planned Naira design. And this is what you find as well. CBN has my backing, Buhari. So that's the big story for the Daily Times newspaper this morning. Apex Bank explains benefits of planned Naira redesign policy, urges Nigerians to support the project as mixed reactions trail move. So this is clearly a very interesting development, and there's so much to actually unpack, unravel with this particular one. We'll be doing that for you as well this morning. We need to get you on the same page, at least know what is going on, know what to expect, know how to respond, all of that you find right there and right here on the program this morning. Of course, that story on insecurity, Southeast governors deny link with ESN. You wonder why that was important. More details on the inside pages. And see this one, maybe you may have experienced it. If you have, let us know how Nigerians are maltreated on board by foreign airlines. So that's at the bottom strip of the Daily Times newspaper this morning. How Nigerians are maltreated on board foreign airlines or by foreign airlines. Goodness. Let us know if you've had any experience. You can tweet at us, send us mails. Let's have your side of the story as well. And just one more, I'll take this one for you. Allow judiciary to perform its functions, CJN admonishes politicians. There you go again. How are politicians interfering with the judiciary? I think it's important to have these things laid bare. Let's have it out there. Ideally, the politicians should not be able to interfere with the judiciary. But with the current structure and how, you know, funding comes through, how they have to get support, you just wonder how.
Is that to say that the law or constitution are weak? It's just a
That's the irony of the situation, because this is the judiciary we're talking about. But that's the Daily Times newspaper.
This Nigeria has this one on its front page, pretty much the same as other papers you've seen this morning, but this is the angle of this Nigeria newspaper to it. Naira redesign controversy. Buhari backs CBN governor, disowns finance minister. What an angle, right? Well, that's what you have on the front page of this Nigeria newspaper. Experts divided as Moghalu alleges politicians buying dollars with stockpiled Naira. Naira slides to 776 Naira to the dollar over redesign plan, a number of other things, he said. Terrorist attack alert, presidency summons emergency security meeting today, and a number of other stories you will find on the front page of this Nigeria today.
Okay, take a look at News Direct. I think this is a similar headline. But they're reporting controversy as Buhari backs Naira redesign, disowns finance minister. How about that angle? So Speaking of angles, actually, Ayo, look at the writer here. Stresses Nigeria stands to gain from exercise. Experts maintain mixed reactions. CBN's move good for mopping up excess liquidity from circulation, ascribed to Anand. So that is what News Direct is reporting this morning. And then they also do have this one, 2023. Sarah asks Atiku, Tinubu, Obi, others to publish sources of their campaign funding. What do you guys make of that?
Yeah, it wants a weekly publishing
Of the sources?
of the sources and how they're spending it.
Oh, how they're spending it as well. Okay, that is interesting. So, hey, you can write in and let us know what you think about all of those. After all, they're coming to you with their campaign messaging. So it's all about you, actually, the people at the end of the day. Well, that is News Direct this morning.
I don't know if it's okay to take
Yeah.
more. New Telegraph. Looking at the front page of New Telegraph now, look at this. Southeast governors raised the alarm over insecurity in the region. Yes, that's the lead story on the front page of New Telegraph. And they also have this call for political solution to Kanu's issue. Set to form joint patrols. Military repels terrorist attack on cantonment. Kill 15 in Niger, Kaduna. Warn residents to remain indoors till further notice. We're battle ready in Bauchi. And you also find that story, Buhari calls for emergency security meeting. So it's not something to be taken lightly, these stories you see right on the front page. You also see this, Naira redesign, CBN acting on my orders, says Buhari. Aerotropolis, FAN, NAMA, NCAA's offices face demolition. You might want to look at, page 28 for the story. Senate uncovers unaccounted 2.2 billion Naira service-wide votes in Justice Ministry. Okay.
Let justice be done.
Just read it, exactly. Indeed, let justice be done. Read it, on the face value. It was just unaccounted for. It doesn't mean it was stolen or it was, corruptly. I don't know. Don't reach any assumptions until you've read the story. And you also see the story, 2023, Afenifere leader blesses Tinubu as Middle Belt Forum reiterates support for Obi. Atiku, Tinubu, Obi, Kwankwanso scramble for North's votes. So looks like they're keeping a watch of how it's going on the campaign trail. Let's leave it there for New Telegraph.
Newspaper has this editorial as its big lead. Our stand, security alerts by the U.S. Embassy, who gains? So clearly this is still in the news. So that's actually the lead for Leadership newspaper this morning. And another angle, different angles to this Naira redesign story. You see, PMB shocks finance minister. Yeah, PMB shocks finance minister, backs Emefiele on Naira redesign.
I don't know what plays in the heads of the editor.
Actually shocked.
I mean, the way headlines I've been seeing. I mean, during the junta of impasse,
Right.
I saw headlines.
Really?
Oh Christ! I saw headlines. I saw them. You were
This is
wondering.
where you see creativity coming to bear.
Man.
Buhari disowns minister. So Buhari shocks finance minister. So yeah, that's a story you find on the inside pages. Are you shocked by that headline as well?
Oh, did the shock you? It's a classic case of what they say that when the elephant dies, different kinds of knives come out. Yeah.
Angle.
Angle.
Another angle. Well, a couple of other stories, a couple of more angles, different stories on the front page of the Leadership newspaper. Afenifere backtracks, endorses Tinubu. That's on 2023. There are now different sides to that. Ex-Afenifere leader, Afenifere had already endorsed this person and all of that. We'll definitely be also taking a look at that for you. And just for mention, this one, very sad one, 60 killed in Indian bridge collapse. Now, what's quite sad about this is the fact that this bridge was just renovated, and this happens.
Could it be one that was weakened by a flood or something? I saw in Peru a flood literally took away a bridge.
Well, and I think you just raised a very important point, because there are areas that have been affected by floods in Nigeria. A lot of people will be moving back, but what flood does is it actually impacts infrastructure.
Yes.
Roads, it moves, a lot of roads that are interlocked, so it actually moves the sand, so the road is actually not the same as you left it. So I think it's important to do some sort of integrity test on the buildings, on the infrastructure generally, so we don't have more disaster on our hands.
Most certainly.
That's a leadership newspaper. Guys.
Just wonder if at the end, when flood recedes in different parts of the states that have been affected, if some sort of integrity tests will also be carried out, because if that is not done, it will just be a matter of time before one or two things happen, which we should try as much as we can to prevent. Well, that wraps it up with a look at some of the dailies here this morning. We will be back in just a moment. Do stay with us.
We believe that the redesign of the currency will help deepen our drive to entrench cashless economy, as it will be complemented by increased minting of our Naira. This will further rein in the currency outside the banking system into the banking system, thereby making monetary policy more efficacious. Also, in view of the prevailing level of security situation in the country, the CBN is convinced that the incidence of terrorism and kidnapping will be minimized, as access to large volume of money outside the banking system used as source of funds for ransom payments will begin to dry up. Ladies and gentlemen, on the basis of these trends, problems, and facts set out above, and in line with the provisions of Sections 2B, Section 18A, and Section 19, subsection A and B of the CBN Act 2007, the management of the CBN has sought and obtained the approval of President Muhammadu Buhari to redesign, produce, release, and circulate new series of banknotes at 200 Naira, 500 Naira, and 1,000 Naira levels. In line with this approval, we have finalized arrangements for the new currency to begin circulation from December 15, 2022, after its launch by President Muhammadu Buhari. The new and existing currencies shall remain legal tender and circulate together until January 31, 2023, when the existing currencies shall cease to be legal tender.
We were not consulted. It was an announcement that we heard. And I've seen,
you too, you just saw the press release like every other body.
Part of the reasons that was advocated is that's one of the ways to mop up liquidity to manage inflation. But there are also consequences that we're also looking at. What would the consequences be? There will be some benefits, but there will be some challenges. And I don't know whether the monetary authorities have actually looked very closely as to what the consequences are and then how they can be mitigated. So I still advise that you have that discussion with the monetary authorities. Not as the fiscal authority. Yeah. First of all, as a fiscal authority, we were not aware of it. It was an announcement. Secondly, I think that's one of the ways that they're trying to use to manage inflation, but there are consequences that also need to be considered and how to manage those consequences.
All right, welcome back. And yeah, you've seen Mr. Dapo Oyeomi joining us next. He is the CEO of Center for Law and Business. He is a legal practitioner. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today. So, well, ever since then, the president has since put up a statement that, yes, he is backing the CBN on this particular matter, which changes the dynamics, even though this morning quite a number of dailies are still reporting that mixed reactions on the part of business people, experts concerning all that is playing out. So let's get your perspective. Having, well, in addition to the president's statement, how does that play out for you now?
Well, good morning, Chamberlain, and everybody on the channels team. And thank you for inviting me again to one of your programs, one of the very enlightening programs that we have on television in Nigeria today. Coming to the issue at hand, I think the president's statement, on the assumption that that's a correct statement, clears the whole issue on the controversy of whether the CBN had authority to do what it did or not. If we look at the CBN Act, I would think that the CBN acted in accordance with the Act. It had the power to control the currency, it has the power to print, it has the power to distribute and circulate currency of the nation. And the Act actually says the CBN is an independent body. So that was also done in order to give the CBN the ability to maneuver and to be nimble on its feet, to be able to react to situations in the economy as quickly as possible. Bearing in mind that the role of the CBN is to maintain financial stability in the economy and in the nation as regards economics and monetary matters and things like that. So the CBN has independence, it's guaranteed under the CBN Act, and it also has the power to deal with the currency of the nation, the denominations, the printing, the circulation, and all that. Having said that, the president has now given his endorsement. The CBN governor said he did obtain the president's approval as required by the law. In fact, Section 19 of the CBN Act says, after the board has considered all matters, it will be approved by the board, and the CBN governor will then take it to the president for approval. So the assumption is those internal issues of approval by the CBN board has been obtained, after which the CBN governor then sought the approval of the president. And it's now clear that that approval was given, and so the CBN has ostensibly acted in accordance with the powers conferred on it by the CBN Act. So I think that clears the issue.
You know, when you talk about when you speak about the law, letters of the law, the spirit of the law, the intendment of the drafters, all the law, does that same principle apply in this case? Because the monetary and fiscal authorities are supposed to be on the same page in the first instance. And now when this played out, won't that rub off negatively on those who may be watching, wondering, you're supposed to be together. So if there's an internal wrangling, doesn't look good, does it?
I agree with you absolutely on that, really. I think in any issue, whether or not one has the powers to do what one wants to do, it's important to consult all stakeholders. On the face of it, the Minister of Finance has told us that the Minister of Finance was not consulted. In my own personal opinion, I think she should be consulted, not for approval, but consultation, because the Minister of Finance is in charge of the spendings of the federal government of Nigeria. And of course, spending, expenditure, and monetary matters are so interrelated. I think the CBN is a strong stakeholder. I mean, the Minister of Finance is a strong stakeholder in this process. And in my own personal opinion would be all stakeholders should be consulted. In fact, I will go to the extent to say that to some extent this matter also borders on money laundering. So I would also say perhaps the money laundering authorities and the NFIU should also be consulted, because we are told that there's a lot of money outside the banking institutions. And perhaps such monies are illegal, and the intention is to mop them up, and those that cannot be brought into the system for one illegal or criminal reason or the other will be rendered illegal and cannot be used in the economy again. So my own personal view is that all stakeholders should be consulted in matters of
that consultation bit, quite a number of people feel differently. While some say that, look, even if they were not on the same page, that they wonder, should the Minister of Finance have said, you know, what she said at that time, telling the whole world that, well, we're going to consult it, while some others thought, look, she was just responding to a query from the National Assembly, and if she had said otherwise, probably other questions might have followed, which she may not have been able to answer.
People have different ways.
Yeah, go ahead.
Different people have different ways of doing things. And I think she was caught unawares and reacted immediately when she saw, when that question was put to her, because it was during the National Assembly meeting with the committee. And then the question was put to her that, oh, this is happening. And her reaction immediately, I think it was a reaction that she had to react right there and then. Again, sometimes maybe she didn't want to create, I really can't speak for her, to be honest with you. People have different ways of doing things. But personally, I also feel that those are two very important key positions in managing the economy of this country. And any disagreement should not be in the public space. I think it should be internally resolved between the parties, and so that there is, they're all on the same page and they're working together for the same objective, because that's the assumption. They're working together for the good of the nation, so they should be on the same page and working along those lines. And then also something that came to my mind, this matter, was it not debated at the Federal Executive Council meeting, or did the CBN governor just go behind everybody's back and straight to the president without it being debated? I don't know. I don't know how government works, but I would have thought that matters of this nature are so important that it's important to get the opinion of other people. Even if you have all the authorities to do something, it's always good to hear other people's opinion. You know, they say 2, 3 good heads are better than one, and nobody has a monopoly of knowledge. And then you can take a more informed decision as to how things are going to be done. So coming back to the issue, I think consultation is necessary. We shouldn't see a public spat between government officials, especially at such high levels. They should be able to resolve these things amongst themselves and, you know, keep everybody confident that the nation is in good hands and the ship of the nation has been steered properly. And that would be my own view of the matter.
Okay, so for some people, you know, I do not know if that will be interpreted as a public spat, or as you said, you know, if she was just caught off guard and she just had to say, look, we don't know anything about this, but this is what we think, and we also think you should speak to the CBN concerning that. But in the places where this has been done, oftentimes an element of surprise is usually necessary for it to be a success, or for it to be able to achieve some of its lofty objectives. If you know, curbing corruption, or, you know, trying to also mop up the currency ahead of a crucial general election coming up next year. If that is part of the purpose, I mean, all of these consultations, do you think that the CBN could have afforded it?
Well, I would want to believe that at government levels, they should be able to maintain confidence of natures of this matter. I mean, the CBN cannot be discussing this matter with the Minister of Finance and maybe the money laundering authorities and the NFRU, and it becomes public knowledge. That would be a great disservice to the nation and a great disservice to the CBN. So amongst themselves, I think they should be able to maintain confidentiality. I quite agree as to the element of surprise, but that is for you and I, for the rest of us who are going to be affected, or who the policy is meant to assist in getting a better economy. But amongst themselves, they should be able to maintain confidentiality. So I'm not sure that because of that element of surprise, it should be kept away from everybody. And if that is the instance, then again, it's a great disservice to you and I.
Yeah, because if you talk about, I mean, one of the things you said is that you wonder if this was discussed at FEC, that's the Federal Executive Council. Do not forget that quite a number of them, I mean, well, the members of FEC are political appointees. They belong to political parties. And as much as possible, they want their political party to succeed. So, I mean, that sort of information being given to FEC, for instance, isn't that already, putting politicians on the alert?
Oh, well, yes, of course, in that part of that aspect of it. But I would also want to believe that I'm not so sure that the FEC includes all the political parties. It says it includes the ministers and some of their aides, and those aides are top-level aides. Yes. Again, at that level, I expect some confidentiality. But let's say it's not possible at that level but there could be one-on-one consultation. And I'm sure in instances like this, in governance, even in the private sector, talk less of the public sector, there are usually smaller caucuses or smaller units, kitchen cabinets, where matters of this nature can be discussed. And then don't forget again that there are very many parastatals and committees and agencies where both the CBN governor and the central bank, the CBN governor and the Minister of Finance are on these committees. And they meet. Very many.
Is it too late in the day? Because if at the end of the day, the CBN does not have to no-toe to anyone, it has, ultimate independence to decide this, as long as the president gives his approval. Is it too late to, meet with the fiscal authorities to look at what the fiscal implications of this will be and try to mitigate them?
Well, nothing is too late. Again, that's putting it after the matter. It may be that the CBN governor wanted to achieve a fait accompli on this matter, which obviously he has achieved. And then now you begin to consult with every other person that maybe other stakeholders, to use that word, to see how these things would affect those other people. But again, if there are certain things that needed to have been tweaked differently on the onset, then perhaps it might be too late. But again, it's done. We've been told that the president has given his approval and has confirmed it. So the matter is done, really.
All right. Yeah. All right. Well, the president also did speak about some of what he expects. Those who are hiding money underneath, they will feel it. The CBN governor said the similar narrative. But we'll let our colleagues from Abuja, I beg your pardon, Lagos, also have questions for you. So, guys, go ahead.
Well, I can understand the confusion.
I didn't hear you.
Well, if you can hear me now,
I'm sorry.
Sir. Can you hear me?
I didn't hear that comment.
Okay. Can you hear me, though?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. Well, there are those who also...
No, I can't hear you anymore.
Oh. Can you hear me now? If you can, because I wanted to ask you...
I can't hear you.
Oh, wow. Well, let's quickly work on that, and then we'll be able to get.
Perhaps there's a network problem.
Okay,
I can't
perhaps it's
seem
just
to
a
hear
bit of
you.
a delay, but try see if you can catch up. So there are those who hint at a catch-22 situation here. On the one hand, calling for consultations, just as you have said, but then there are those who also feel that perhaps in the process of too many consultations, the main objective could be truncated in that those who have interests or interested parties could tell them covertly, so to speak, in order for them to get ahead of the policy in such a way that what the policy was intended to, what the position, what the action of the CBN was intended to achieve, it would not be able to achieve if the consultations had gone on. I asked that against the background, even though, as you said, it's already done, the president has already spoken about it, but then they are already suggesting an adjustment to the CBN Act in such a way that the CBN doesn't have to be so independent as it is now.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Let's try from here. Yeah. But can you hear me though? All right, I think he was trying to just talk about some already suggesting that there should be some sort of amendment to the CBN Act such that the CBN doesn't have that exclusive powers. Would you subscribe to that?
No, you see, we have to look at where we're coming from. There was a need to make the CBN governor or make the Central Bank of Nigeria independent. And I mentioned that at the beginning. Because before now, the Central Bank was not independent. It was under the supervision of the Minister of Finance many, many years ago, And there were reasons why that was changed. And one of those reasons was to make the CBN governor be able to react fast if there's a need to do so, perhaps as exemplified in the present situation. And in that independence, he still has to get the president's approval in certain instances. So in my view, I think the present position is fine. It has worked. And, we've seen what has happened. There's a level of independence, and I think there's a reason for that level of independence. Just as Marquez had suggested, this whole matter was intended to catch everyone of us by surprise. If that level of independence wasn't there, the CBN would not have been able to do what has been done in these instances. The effect is a different thing, but at least it was able to carry out what they think is in the best interest of the economy. Wow. So I would still maintain that level of independence should be maintained.
Now, about that, intention to catch people by surprise, well, they will have some time to respond to this and go ahead and comply or get your money to the bank and get the new ones. But already, we're getting all sorts of comments from different quarters, including some who are suggesting that, well, you just may have kidnappers begin to demand for dollars. So the surprise element is gone in that regard. So if it was supposed to achieve a certain objective, isn't that being defeated now?
Well, Nigerians are very, very, how will I say it, very, very sharp people, to use that word. And they have reacted in a way that some of them felt was best in this instance. But I still believe that there will still be some attainment of the intended objective. But in terms of the foreign exchange element, I think it has had a negative impact on that, because everybody can see how southwards the foreign exchange rate of exchange has gone. It's really gone haywire within a very short period, because what we are told is that everybody that has money outside the system have changed it into dollars. And so there's a shortage of dollars and the exchange rate has gone haywire, as I said. But one question I would like to ask, why is there so much money outside the banking system? And what is the cause of that? And can that be addressed in a different manner other than this redesigning of the Naira? You know, because if we don't address what causes that problem, it's just a matter of time it will happen again.
We'll pick up on
Nigeria
that
is
in a bit.
supposed to be a cashless economy.
Yeah, we'll pick up on that.
We'll
pick up on that perspective in just a moment. But preceding that, when you say it's already reflecting on the impact of the Naira to the dollar, can't we consider that as some sort of direct feedback in terms of the impact of this policy, whether it's going to be a good one or not?
Yes, it's a direct impact of that policy. Everybody that has Naira that they do not want to take into the banking system is changing it to dollars. So it's a direct impact of this policy that the exchange rate has gone the way it has gone in the past 1 week. And in fact, what I'm told is that you can't even get dollars to buy. If you go to your bank, you want to take money out of your domiciliary account, the banks will keep sending you from one branch to the other, and everybody will say there's no money. The bureau de change don't have, the streets guys don't have. That's the reports that one is getting, that a lot of Naira and a lot of dollars have exchanged hands in the past 1 week since this policy was announced. You know, so that is a direct impact as far as I'm concerned on this policy. Yeah.
Well, let's quickly take this to Lagos first before I take you up on this particular statement, because, you know, it will mean that the fears might not be adding up then. But let's see if Ayo can get his question through once more.
Okay. Thank you, Ayo. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think I'm going to yield the floor for this moment.
Okay, so let's try this one more time. And I'd like to take you up on this point you just made about, I imagine a lot of people who have domiciliary accounts, who have their dollars in their account, maybe as a result of work they have done, business, and now they can't access it. I really hope that is not the case, because it will be really sad. But now, seeing that a lot of people are trying to convert their Naira to the dollar on the back of this recent announcement, do you think that speaks to the attitude then of Nigerians, unlike the policy or the effectiveness or otherwise of this policy? Do you think it speaks to the general attitude of Nigerians to the currency, and essentially how their attitude might then pull down this policy, whether it was good or not?
I'm sorry, there's still a problem here. I can't seem to hear the questions from your Lagos studio.
Oh dear.
I know I was
Okay,
speaking,
let's try this then. Well, Kayode was asking about, I mean, with regards to your last response, he was asking about whether that was not more about the attitude of Nigerians rather than perhaps maybe the quality of our currency. Did you catch that?
Yes, I caught that. Whether it's the attitude of Nigerians and the quality of our currency. That's the question.
Yes, I think something along the lines of, I hope I'm phrasing this right, but he was saying that, you know, the fact that there is a scramble for dollars, isn't that more about our attitude rather than, say the actual value of our currency?
Well, you see, how will I put it now? The currency has to be used by Nigerians, by people, and they react to economic policies, to economic conditions, to demand and supply, and all of those other things that impact on the economy. And so this policy, their view is that, Like I said, for those who have a lot of Naira outside the system, they are the ones who are trying to change it into dollars. I'm sure those of us who don't have such money outside the system are not bothered by this policy. In fact, I don't think it affects us either way, because most of us use electronic banking systems and so hardly carry any cash around. For those who have that amount of money and they think that they need to change it, that's what has happened. And it's the people who use money, the way they use it, dictated by the demands of economic situations, that will impact the currency. And that's what has happened in this instance. So if you say it's the attitude of Nigerians, perhaps, but that attitude is dictated by economic considerations and to do what they think is in the best interest for themselves.
Yeah, you know, almost every economy will always have money outside of its system. I'm sure certainly not all of the dollars that is printed in the United States, you know, stays in the United States. But if you look at how much Naira the CBN says is out of its system, 80% of monies printed by the CBN is outside of its vaults. It's certainly something to be worried about. And for those who say that this was, you know, maybe this was hurriedly thought of, what other system do you think the CBN could have come up with to be able to mop up 80% of its funds outside of bank vaults?
Okay, I agree with you absolutely that the level of money outside the system is just way too much. 80% is large. But you recall a few minutes ago, I asked a question. How did that money get outside the system? We've been told for the past 10 years, if not more, promoting a cashless economy, and quite a number of people have adopted that cashless. Everybody has an ATM. There's what I would call a POS economy in the markets. You go, you need cash. There are people holding POSs that will give you cash in exchange for the Naira. In exchange for cash, you give them your card, they will deduct the money, and they'll give you cash. Of course, there's a discount or a premium, depending on how you want to call it. So I want to believe that that system is working. It's working in the market. It's working everywhere. But still, there's so much money outside the system. How has that arisen? And I think that should be tackled. And I may dare say, if I'm not wrong, that government itself, or government officials, or people, or so, it is said that they do conduct quite a number of businesses in cash. So on one hand, we're being told that it should be a cashless economy. On the other hand, transactions are being conducted in cash, you know, and payments and things like that. If everybody has kept to the banking system, there are the mobile banks as well, you know, the smaller telecoms mobile banks that are also trying to assist in this matter, so that places where banks cannot reach. I think that should be encouraged, that there's as minimum transactions in cash as possible. And I don't think it's the market woman, the people doing their businesses honestly, that have this money outside the system. I don't think so. If you look at it, the average market woman is not going to be buying. It's not the one mopping up all the dollars in the market, in the economy. They're not the ones building all that trillion Naira outside the banking system. It's some other people, I would probably say privileged people, who are holding that money. How has that come into the system? So and I think that should be addressed.
If we're to go with what you've already said, the fact that dollars are becoming scarce, and a lot of Naira is now chasing dollars, and even the BDCs are very reluctant to give out whatever few dollars they have left. Do you think that then, if this was actually to call out black money, if this policy of the central bank was to ensure that, you know, a lot of black money is out of circulation. Do you think then that it could be a success, given the fact that, you know, there's very few dollars left within the system, or what we're being made to, you know, believe now with the scarcity of dollars?
Well, the fact that it has put pressure on the exchange rates, I'm not sure that's a good thing. Even the average market woman, if you go to the market, and she will tell you, oh, price of dollar has changed between last week and now, and so my prices have to change. It has a very strong inflationary tendency of the economy. Everybody blames the foreign exchange for everything. Everybody, oh, the foreign exchange has changed and all that, so prices must go up. And of course, it's inflationary. Prices are going up. This is a very dependent, import-dependent economy that needs to be changed. Even the price of PMS, crude on the international market and all those things will be affected. So I'm not so sure. For the fact that it's inflationary and strongly inflationary, I don't think that's, at least in the short term. Perhaps in the long term, there might be other measures that the CBN is going to be rolling out to deal with this. I don't know. But in the immediate term, where we are now, there's going to be a lot of inflationary tendencies as we see it. And, you know, I think something needs to be done about that. I don't quarrel with that policy in itself if there's really a strong need for the policy, but the effect should have been anticipated and managed. And and then I keep asking the question, how do we get that a large amount of money outside the banking system? If that is not addressed, whatever loophole is allowing for that, if it's not addressed, it's just a matter of time that amount of money will be back in the system.
Well,
or
you
rather
heard the president.
outside the system.
You heard the president and what he had to say, what his thoughts are about those who have monies buried in the ground and how that will give them the biggest headache. Do you share his sentiments or do you share his thoughts?
Well, that's the argument of the central bank, and I'm sure that's the basis upon which the approval was obtained. So it's an arguable position, and that's the whole intention, that monies buried under the ground should either be rendered useless or it will be brought into the system. And when it is brought into the system, it will expose those who have the money, which is why in my earlier statement, or when we started, I said this is also a money laundering issue. And as such, those money laundering concentrations need to be looked at. Perhaps there's a need to tweak the policies and the law on money laundering and the NFIU and the instruments and measurements used for doing that. At the moment, the banks report these things, oh, somebody has brought so much amount of money and all that. But perhaps technology should be used, you know, in such a way that it's captured easily. And then, if I may say so, I think with this issue of cashless economy and all that, I will probably be advocating that we should concentrate more on the lower denominations of the Naira. I think the higher denominations, the 1,000 Naira, also has an inflationary tendency in the economy. And so even if it's not totally eradicated, I think the volume of the 1,000 Naira should be reduced.
As we wrap up now, I just want to quickly ask you whether you think that these agencies whom you've mentioned, the NFIU, the AFCC, do you think that they have sufficient capacity to be able to monitor as people will try to, you know, maybe return monies that have been outside of the system to the banks?
Well, I hope they do. That's the whole idea. That's what they're supposed to be doing. And they should do so. At the moment, if they had done it properly, I don't think we should have found ourselves in this situation. But now is a challenge for that. That, look, this is something that needs to be done for the Nigerian economy to get onto a better footing. There's too much money outside the system, and that money is chasing foreign exchange here and there. It's chasing a lot of goods and services and paying premium, ready to pay premium for it because it's outside the system, and they need to use the money. Like I said, it's money laundering. So the NFIU, the money laundering bodies should step up their game, along with the banks.
All right, Mr. Dapo,
you need the cooperation of the banks. All of these things can happen.
Yeah, we need to go, even though there are several scenarios where many will say, no one who has all that stash of money will just go and walk into a trap. They'll just, because CBN, we also expect that those authorities should have done all the scenario planning, knowing that these are the likely things that will be done by all of these persons. But we'll wait and see. Maybe they've got some plans that they don't want to expose to everybody yet. So we'll keep watching and see how all of this play out. But we do thank you very much indeed for your time this morning.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
All right, we will be back.
I wish the Nigerian economy a lot of good luck.
All right, we all hope so too.
Thanks,
all right, thank you. We're back in a moment. Join us again.
May God provide for them. May we all remember them in prayers. May we all care for them. I assure you, if we come into power, we'll solve the flooding problem. We are not going to do it overnight, but we'll start solving it. It will not take 30 years. We had one government said it will take 30 years. We will not take 30 years for us to solve it. We will support youth. Because today, Nigerian youth don't have a hope. When we come into government, the youth will have hope. Because we'll solve their problem. In Naira today, there's no electricity. There's no electricity. You can get electricity. I assure you that if government of PDP and that it comes into government, we will stop solving Nigerian electricity problem. Schools will make sure that people go back to school. Schools will start working. We are going to do whatever. Today in Nigeria, the price of food, people spend all their money to feed themselves. So many people can't even feed themselves. We will make sure that we start the journey of Nigeria being sufficient in food production.
All right, welcome back to Mr. Kachin on the Just. You've seen there is the special advisor to Peter Obi on public affairs for the Labour Party. He joins us next. Good morning and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much for, as usual, having me.
Well, just to be sure, does this effectively put paid to your membership of the PDP?
Well, I cannot. What I would simply tell you is, in my calculations and what it's been, the PDP and the Labour Party seems to be like the butterfly and the caterpillar. Two of them shared by the same egg. One must die for the other one to exist. So this is the natural progression. The PDP was the original table on which Nigeria did handle its transition from dictatorship to democracy. Now that table, as at now, 4 of its legs are not in one place. Kwankwaso took one leg of the table, Peter Obi took another leg of the table, Governor Wike and others with him took another leg of the table. So the only leg standing looks like what the Northerners will call Dangurugu. So whenever I go, people look at me and say, Yan Dangurugu, Kazo, the man of the one-legged man, have you come? I feel ashamed. And I know I do not want to remain to play the undertaker. I needed to move, and I watched, and I saw where the youth were moving to, and I saw where the majority of those that you refer to as the Jonathanians in the PDP were moving to, and I simply had to think for the sake of my children and the future of the country. Since I believe this is where everybody in the PDP may finally come to, now that the agendized who returned from the APC came back with the same mindset of nepotism, have seemed to have captured our party. You simply need to understand when the things have changed, so we've moved.
But this is not the dominant narrative that we get from several other members, because the PDP, they, of course, they have a presidential candidate. They are rolling on with their campaign. Their candidate was in the States, and they are back. They say they are raring to go, contrary to what you're saying now.
Yes, people could pretentiously tell you, no, it's not true, I'm not moving. But it's not true. I used to be 20 years old. Today, I am a senior citizen. I can't pretend yesterday is still with me. It's gone. If they could not stop Kwankwaso moving, as I speak to you, when Buhari leaves, the Hausas will not see any figure to follow. Kwankwaso plays that pathfinder.
So the Labour Party was just...
The Labour Party is a new staging ground for all of us who intend to sustain the progress towards nation building. You cannot build a nation without equity, fairness, justice, and all. You can't. So what we have seen is the agendaists have come in, taken our party, and the party has now gotten dismembered. Nobody can stand as a Dangurugu. Nobody stands on one leg. The four legs are gone.
But how is it that, because I mean, we've met several people, some being on the program here, who say that yes, they're sympathetic to the PDP, but they won't leave their party. Some of them in the PDP, so, I mean, we had two from Edo State last time, and they say, well, yeah, we'll support them, but we're not leaving our party.
They can tell you that. Those are rhetorics. It's like the rhetorics of the Buhari's administration. Never changed anything. The rhetorics are fight corruption, corruption. Today they are the most corrupt. The PDP would not speak against the corruptions in the APC. Even as we're talking about the stealing of oil, they would not say it because they seem to have become Siamese twins. So if I mean well for Nigeria, why will I stay with a group that will not condemn the wholesale stealing of our oil because they don't want to offend the APC? Don't you understand?
But even within the Labour Party, you're already having your own intrigues, the crisis there, this disagreement accusing the youth leader of fraud.
No.
Already.
That's not a crisis. The youth leader came to me and I sat him down and I told him, I said, the APC and whatever party you have, the PCC, the Presidential Campaign Council, is normally very different from the party's National Working Committee. And he said, Oga, what's my offense? I said, you should not have never arrogated to yourself responsibilities not given. The PCC should be in charge of the presidential campaign and handling the volunteer groups, not you in the NWC trying to take positions.
Because they're insisting that he forged signatures.
Listen,
and he's suspended.
It's not a forged signature. He, in order to gain authority for the things he was doing, he used old paperwork that had the signature of the former chairman. That is a crime. And I told him, calm down. If you sustain, you could be expelled. Let us bellow you down, and we could, when it cools down, bring you back to normal. You've done nothing that is good. You've made a mistake, which is human. Calm down. And that's what it is. He shouldn't have jumped in to take what was not allocated to him.
Does the party see it this way? Because if they do, one would have expected.
I am telling you the truth. I've just told you what the truth is.
Yeah.
This is what it is. And you can, sometimes you don't blame him, because the Labour Party took time in rolling out its issue. Look at me, okay? After they rolled out the the members of the PCC, 1,240 something. After that, they now named directors, special advisors. And then you saw my name come up 3 days ago, and that's when I know I'm on board.
So is he going to hand over everything to the PCC and then they recall him?
He is on suspension. Yeah. He is on suspension. He's not expelled.
Yeah, I know.
So not he's going to hand over anything to the pit. Nothing was given to him. He simply put his hand where he shouldn't put. And it's a simple issue.
Is it going to be
as a way to talk to everyone else, he was reprimanded, and everyone else will understand. You don't put your hand to take things from the pool that should be exclusive to the PTC. So it was like talking to one man, but everybody will understand. Oh boy, make it a no follow. The NWC of the party is not the same as the PCC. If the PCC doesn't allocate to you a responsibility, you have no right to put your hand and take. It doesn't work. So I think this issue is over, and that's what it is. Most people, and I don't blame them, don't understand this as I'm trying to explain to you. That's what happened.
But, yeah. It's a really tricky one, because I see that even within the PDP, beg your pardon, the APC, that has also caused some furore. They've had to calm things down before the eventual. I think it moved the inauguration date, the inauguration date for the Presidential Campaign Council, to reconcile the difference between the members of the National Working Committee who wanted to be able to lead within the PCC, and then also members of the PCC as selected. I think they've been able to get past that now, and they've started their campaigns. But you know, some people will say that this is the early days. You're not a neophyte in politics. You know how 24 hours is a long time in politics, and the elections are not until February next year. So you still have the whole of November, December, and the whole of January to see where things will really, really settle. Some people will say the PDP looks like it's having, really big troubles right now. But who's to say that, it cannot solve all of these matters within a month?
We run a representative democracy. I represent the interests of the geography from where I hail. If I don't come there and the people from there do not agree, nobody can go there. So if we, like we had the Southern Caucus, make demand for inclusion, you don't include us, and we decide that as a whole we will pull out, we will pull out. If some snitches go behind and say, look, my people are demanding for the one leg, one hand, and the head of the cow, don't worry, just give me the cow tail, that's enough for me. You're asking for what you want to eat. It doesn't represent the position of the caucus. So that's been the problem you've seen. It's not going to work. The people that we are supposed to represent have seen that we're not part of decision making. Right now, in every party, the strength, the chairman, the PCC, the presidential candidate. How do you now start balancing things?
Because you made reference to Governor Wike, and Governor Wike has been very clear in terms of what he and 4 other governors are asking for. They said they're not looking for the sack of the national chairman. All they want is for him to keep your promise. The moment he does that, what's to say that the tide cannot change, and there'll be huge questions as to what precisely the political setup is really going to look like.
Well, you also have to ask yourself the reasons why the other people refuse. Because they don't believe that Atiku will win the election. If they believe Atiku could win the election, they will concede. And when he wins, he will change everything. But because in their innermost mind, they don't think he will win. If they think he will win, they'll give up the chairman. And then when he wins, he will reconstitute the party in his own image.
No, but come on.
What I'm telling you is the insider game. If they believed he will win, they would not be struggling to hold the presidential candidacy and also to hold the chairmanship, to hold everything there is. What I see is as if the nepotism standards of the Buhari administration has now become a socially conditioning thing that has affected quite a lot of people.
But if you take a look at how their campaign started, because I think yesterday was, on Saturday was when you officially kicked off your campaigns, as the Labour Party kicked off its campaign in Lafia, Nasarawa State. And you look at how the PDP kicked off its campaigns in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital. They had quite a showing.
They had a showing, because they were still doing what we were doing before. Pay money, rent the crowd, pay money to the bosses who will bring the crowd, and then do rally. That's different from what you're seeing now, the youth-based organic movement, where the youths themselves, the Nigerians themselves, organically organize. And that's what you saw P2B do by putting Aisha Yusuf on the podium in Nasarawa, telling you that those youths who are all over the country organizing as structural leaders will be allowed to hold control and participate as stakeholders in the new enterprise. Not you using one man in Abuja as a structural leader, no matter how the monkeys walk, it's only the baboon in Abuja that will eat. That's a different thing. Well, now, I used also notice that a lot of those who are amongst us who were there in Uyo started singing Obi Kerenke Obi. That tells you
that was an old video. The PDP students came out and said that was an old video.
Listen to me. Yes. That's just rhetoric they're telling you. That is what happened. Now that tells you there are a lot of people who are still there in the tent whose mind are with where you saw how my friend and brother Lisametu said. He said the minute Peter will be moved, a lot was lost in him. A lot was lost in a lot of people. Because some of the governors who called me after my name was announced said, look, you know, we're not going to leave this youth off for Peter. I said, yes, I can see that, sir. We're all coming there. Most of them are young people. Why would they now see where the youth, who are some 2% of the voting population, are going to? And you now want to stay with the dinosaurs. No, the tomorrow of this country belongs to the youth, not to the dinosaurs.
You know what I mean? All political parties accuse themselves of renting and paying crowd, which is the usual narrative.
That's exactly what happened in the kickoff.
But what, in Lafia?
No, in the kickoff in Uyo, the one she was talking about.
But in Lafia, they're already saying that your party didn't even have the crowd, that they thought that the place was all going to be filled up, but it wasn't.
We are having a different kind of campaign. We are not doing the campaign based on pay the youths, pay the crowd, pay the owners of the buses to bring people. We want to see the Nigerians who will bring themselves there. That's a totally different thing. We want to run an organic campaign in Labour Party, as opposed to the rent system that we used to do in the PDP, and as you see, the APC also does. So I think we need to change. Let us look at this organic-based, street-driven movement. I think we need to allow them a say. We needed to allow those organic organizers to hold the game, and that's why you saw it.
Let's allow our colleagues in Lagos to see as well. Go ahead, guys.
All right, thank you, Chamberlain. Let me just piggyback on that point, really, because I haven't described the Labour Party loosely as one of the legs of the PDP, as it were, and you're saying that some others have taken the legs and the current PDP is standing on just one leg. It then dovetails to the question about the support, the kind of votes you will then get. By the way, it's still not clear if you're a Labour Party member or still a PDP member. But it dovetails into that question of the kind of votes you will get, because some will say that the votes have been shared really across those four legs, as you put it. So if the crowd that we saw in Uyo, for example, was anything to go by going into the elections, some will say that translates into at least those votes in the bag, except you are saying that the same way you say the party used to pay for crowds, it also used to pay for the votes as well. So if we didn't see as much showing of crowd in Nasarawa, some will say that implies that we might not see as much showing of votes in the election.
Well, we have moved on. We believe there is a lot of voters right there on the Nigerian street. And the Labour Party is simply moving with the Nigerian street. As you can see, the movement on the streets is not being driven by P2B, or no, it is an organic movement driven by the Nigerian youth. And that's what it is. So we can't go back to the old ways of doing things. We seek to take advantage of this organic revolution, of this organic movement, of this new yearning by the people, and work with them. I agree that up to 85% of the PDP in the historical voting bloc are now following Labour. Never mind what the dinosaurs are telling you and the ability to rent crowds. No, we want to work with the organic people. We want to work with the Nigerian people. And I tell you, it's a gradual thing. The Labour Party wasn't known 6 months ago in the way it is known today. But the minute the problem came in the PDP, Mr. Peter Obi moved. He wasn't the only one to move. Several people moved. And suddenly the youths looked at those who moved and said, this is where we're going to. And that we are very, very happy for the optics that we've seen. We have to now choose. Who do you want to follow? Is it the dinosaurs or the youths? I have decided to follow the youths. I have decided to be the same way the youths have now employed Mr. Peter Obi for him to provide a face for their masquerade. I think that's where everybody wants to be. No parent today will want to be talking about his grandfather that he's buried when he has younger children to look after. Part of the reason why I decided on what I decided was because I have kids and I want to work for the tomorrow of the country and also the future of my children.
Well, and ironically, some will say that even today, right, even today, dinosaurs have such a huge following till today. I mean, you can tell from the franchise, the movies, you know, the toys and all of that. So, I mean, that's just by the side. I mean, since you're using the dinosaur analogy. But about this move of the Labour Party, and I was quite particular about votes, translating to votes, if you could judge from the showing. And I also wanted to be clear on where you stand. Is it with the PDP as it is, or just with the Labour Party? Because some have said that, I mean, politicians, I mean, they know how to read the times. They know where the opportunities are, and they've sort of projected. They're looking at this and thinking, okay, maybe let's ride on this wind of the youth. So for you, is this just taking advantage of the opportunity, since it looks like it is a move and something might come out of it? Or is it out of genuine interest for the nation? Because some say if everyone from PDP is moving to the Labour Party, then it might just end up as the same PDP which you're referring to as a dinosaur today.
No. The PDP that we're running away from is the PDP that has now become infected with the mindset and the mind share that they saw from the APC. The new Labour Party and the yearnings of the youth is premised on an inclusive Nigeria. That one that we have abandoned doesn't believe in an inclusive enterprise. We now want to move with the youth to a Nigeria where everybody should have a sense of belonging in this enterprise of nation building.
All right. We need to wrap up, but could you tell the youths then, are you still a member of the PDP?
I have effectively ended my membership. You cannot serve a God and a mammon. I have effectively ended my membership of the PDP, sadly, after about 22 years. I have today decided, for the sake of the future of my country, to join the Labour Party and join hands with other people to build a better Nigeria for the tomorrow of our children and our country.
All right, Kashun Onuju is the recently appointed Special Advisor on Public Affairs to Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party. Thank you for coming on, and all the best.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, we will be back in just a moment. Stay with us.
Nobody has said I should be sacked. The word sacking and the one keeping to your promise are two different things. I heard when he said he would have stopped Autumn from running. You see how ungrateful human beings are. This was the same his governor Autumn, who pleaded with us and said, listen, I can take this risk and let him become the national chairman without being greedy. Like, remember the governor that no national chairman should come from where a governor comes from. We agreed on that. But Otom came, and as a man with respect, he said, listen, I want to promote my people. Let them be at the national politics. And we said, okay, their honor will agree. This is a man who never campaigned anywhere. This is a man who never bought form, he never bought a poster. Even though the money they gave him to print posters, he never printed any poster. Now I can even tell you if he wanted to stop the man who brought him, who granted for him, who became his grantor. He can say, he now says, if I wanted to stop him. That's the corruption we're talking about. He has now come into office. He has seen money. He has seen power. Now he can open his mouth to say if he wanted to stop Otom, he would have. But we dare him, and he said he can also stop any contestant. Look at.
Welcome back. Mr. Daniel Bola joins us next. He is the spokesperson for the Atiku Okowa Presidential Campaign Organization. Good morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
I was almost going to confuse you from coming from a boy just now with your recent attire.
Mazi Daniel Bola.
Okay, so how is your campaign going on now? Because, I mean, while you try to focus, then you hear some narrative coming through from, for instance, the one that just came through from Wiki. It gets people thinking, is the PDP still going on full steam with their campaign?
Actually, we are going over, if there's any word like over steam, because this is evident in what we do, which is being covered by the Nigerian press and people, in fact, internationally. We have all of our programs were based on dates, and we've always kept to the schedule. We launched the campaign in Akwa Ibom, but before then, we had stakeholder engagement in the southwest, we had one in the southeast, and then the northeast, and it was warmly accepted and, by the members of the party. So we had the campaign kickoff, and since then, all the places we have been to, it was a massive success so far. There is energy in our camp. Everyone is excited about it. The experts have adjudged that we are in a commanding lead to win. We're not talking about social media manipulation of algorithm. We're talking about people who see facts. They see what is happening. Our candidate has even gone beyond just engagement, manifest in terms of electioneering campaign, to begin to even act out some of the things we said in our manifesto, which is, he talked about having a $10 billion carrying capital. So he engaged with the Chamber of Commerce in Nigeria, where he was interrogated in our manifesto. And now today, later today, he's going to be addressing the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. That's the largest chamber of commerce in the world. They invited him. And they must have seen something about that.
I mean, it looks as if there's so much energy in the campaign team such that the chairman of the party had to make a comment or two about him having the powers to stop, I think, certain persons from campaigning, right, which the governor of Rivers State responded to. So one wonders if they should discountenance all of those, if they keep making this kind of statement and focus on this strategy or this campaign which is going on in the States. How do they balance that?
Yeah, I get your point. But, because ultimately it's the Nigerian people that vote, our focus is on the ball, right? The people that will vote. Stakeholders are permitted to engage. Everybody has a right of expression. And some of the expressions are genuine. Anybody who feels uncomfortable will say it. But nothing Wike is saying today that is new. He has said it, and it is no longer, it's predictable, so to speak. And our joy is that so far, the camp he kept right from the beginning is still the same camp he's sustaining. He has not been able to expand beyond that. So that tells you that the movement and the energy.
So about the campaign, I say he went to the States. Why does your principal find it necessary to go to the States?
First of all, our election is under threat. The media have covered extensively the intention and, in fact, the effort of APC to, one, put pressure on the INEC chairman to resign because he insisted there must be the use of beavers. They attempted hacking into INEC.
Is it actually coming from the APC?
Of course, for sure. It has been reported. There is a conference of United Political Parties. They had a meeting, and channels covered it. And they have not been able to come out to debunk. But that's a governing party. What else did you expect? We have seen worse than that. Now, because of this, it will be troubling. And so if you have development partners, it's only necessary that you engage the development partners to ensure that a free and fair process is established so that people like Peter Obi, who believe he has a fair chance, should be able to have a fair chance in the electioneering process in the country. It is skewed when it is not free, when it is not fair. You have seen even the Labour Party people who have been attacked in places in Ebonyi. You have seen our own campaign in Kaduna, who were denied the use of a venue that a week earlier was given to Kwankwaso. You have seen how talks were sent into the place. So Atiku Abubakar engaged with the Department of State. We've issued out the categories of personalities that they had a meeting with. We were able to extract commitment from the American government that they will ensure that a free and fair process is established in the country. In fact, they are shortly before the election, they are going to announce stiffer measures of sanction if individual or organization or even the government, interferes with the fair process of election. That's all we're asking for, not anything favor. With the Chamber of Commerce, our own philosophy is a free market economy. And we all know that there is no part of the world where you have absolute free market economy, and that's the reason why you have antitrust law and competition law. But in Nigeria, where we believe an average Nigerian is an entrepreneur, economy that will thrive and take us out of the doldrum is one that will promote private sector participation in the economy, which is what APC does not have.
But even at that, while that visit goes on, there are still questions about all of those because, back here, many still have this impression that, yes, you could get all of that, but at the end of the day, you have a ruling party in power who is the party to beat because they are the ones who are in the saddle and they haven't been there, have the momentum, as many people say. So they think it's not going to be a stroll in the park for the PDP because you also have the Labour Party angle, which many, or those from PDP, equally have a say or joined the Labour Party, and so weakening the base of the PDP.
Let me be honest with you. Labour Party has more promise in this election than APC. It's a referendum.
Not PDP?
Not PDP. PDP is the opposition party. In 2019, you saw how they came close. Many believe they won and it was skewed. But as a lawyer, because there has been a decision to the Supreme Court that says it's APC, I leave it at that. But the point is, when you had all of their aspirants together, compact, with President Buhari, and yet they only managed to escape with 2.something million votes, you can imagine now that they are they are fragmented, where the candidate of the party is on a vendetta mission against those who ran against him in the primaries. Where is Osinbajo today? Ostracized, as if he's an outcast in the country, including his boys, to the point where he was the candidate of their party is saying he forgave Osinbajo. When has participating in election become a sin? Where is Rotimi Amechi? They are flirting with Wike like the way you flirt with Mr. World, just because Amechi ran in the primaries against him. Where's Ahmed Lawal? Suddenly Machina says he's not going to step down. The referendum on APC is not on a standard set by others.
So you think
it's
that
their own standards.
Are those going to affect whether or not people vote for the APC?
It's already affecting, but much more than that is the manifesto, or rather the standard that APC as a political party took to the market and got the vote of the Nigerian people, which people have come to believe as 419. They say they are campaigning on security, they are campaigning on the economy, and they campaign on anti-corruption. My son is just about 3 going to 4. I was asking him a few questions about security, economy, and anti-corruption. I can't believe that as small as he is, he could rate this government as a failure. Security-wise, do I need to tell you that embassies and governments are flying out of the country? It got to a point now we are not even using it for politics. We are carefully and passionately trying to see how we can save the APC government. Number 2, you look at corruption. It is arguable that this administration has produced more corrupt people than any administration in the history of Nigeria. If you give me time, I will tell you. Economy, economy, if you look at economy today, we are heading towards what is called superinflation. It is a state you get to where the total structure of economy of a country is down. Inflation, 29-point-something trillion Naira is going to be paid in the first 3 years of the next administration. Our debt to revenue or service ratio is about 100 and something. The economy of this country is that even the printing of the money, although some economists say it's a good step, but there are others who believe it's a distraction because you could do that either after the election or long before the election. Yeah. But they wanted to create an activity, to give the impression as if something is happening.
Yet, this was the party you supported up till a few months ago.
No, it doesn't matter. It's not about me.
Just hold on a moment. This was a party you supported up till a few months ago, and the only reason you changed or you jumped ship was because of the same faith ticket that the APC was proposing. Assuming Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu had a Christian vice presidential candidate, you will still be in the APC.
No, if it's a question, my answer is simple. We've gone past that stage. All the news media, print and electronics, have asked questions. I've given my responses. That was before the campaign. Campaign has kicked off. I'm not going to be on the ballot. I'm a spokesman to a presidential candidate. I'm to talk about his manifesto. So it is a non-issue. What in law we say, it goes to no issue. The most important thing is the person I'm marketing, is he fit and proper to govern? Is his economic agenda judged as favorable to the Nigerian economy? Among the other candidates that he's running for the office, who is the most qualified? Who has the widest reach? Who has the character and will to govern a country like Nigeria? Who has had the opportunity in government of looking at Nigeria and piloting affairs of the country?
You don't think
he's way ahead?
You don't think? Perhaps it might be. And one could say that, there's a way you can market somebody without exactly, especially if you have been there and may have still been there, but for circumstances that changed. Right. So I'm just looking at when you say, they have performed woefully. They were performing woefully all of the time while you were there, weren't they?
Does it matter? I never worked with them. I never worked as an appointee of the government. I wasn't in a position to effect change or not to effect change.
Okay, but let's go back now. Let's look at where you say that you pointed out the problems with the APC, and I'm sure that they would certainly have a response in that regard. But let's look at where the PDP is.
But before you go, let me appreciate the fact that you recognize that when it comes to engagement, that somebody says something, APC has the opportunity to respond, which I believe is a big plus to you. Because in the Nigerian press of today, we have seen anchors who even go to the point of making a case for them. And after they've done that, then they will now say, I'm not speaking for APC. So it's kudos to you.
Let's look at what it is that you talk about, the PDP. I mean, when you say that they're still together about Governor Wike, etc., I'm just looking at the fact that in the 2019 elections, the candidate of the PDP and the current candidate of the Labour Party were in the same party. As a matter of fact, they ran on the same ticket. Yet you dismiss the fact that supporters who would have accrued to the PDP as a result of him being there have now left with him to the PDP. And you also have within the PDP those who are supposed to be supporting the candidate with all of their power and might, saying we're not going to campaign for him until certain things are done. You don't think that will have any effect at all?
So I will answer in twofold. Number one, with the last one. Anybody who critically looks at the amendment to the Electoral Act will know that the 2023 elections is going to be decided solely by the will and wishes of the people rather than big personalities. Because the reason why big personalities such as governors and others were alpha and omega is because before the amendment, a governor can tell you, I'll give you 30%. I'll give you 70%. Because after votes are cast in that at the polling unit, before it gets to the ward or local government, usually there are replacement of vote, all kinds of rigging. With the amendment to the Electoral Act, whatever happens at the polling unit is the final verdict of the court, is the Supreme Court in respect of the matter. And the introduction of beavers does not permit of mystical manipulation by individual. So it's going to be an election that will be decided by a movement of people rather than by one big personality. And that's why I'm upbeat. You can look at Ocean as a proof. The second point that you talked about is with respect to Peter Obi. Fact, Peter Obi was made popular because of his association with Atiku. He is not a new phenomenon like a clap of thunder out of a blue sky. He's been kid in the blood. He's been around. And politics is dynamic. So when you assume that by leaving, he's taking out people that ordinarily voted because of him, you are taking away the fact that the entire Northwest and some parts of the country, where in 2019 they were favorably disposed to APC and have now been disillusioned and disowned APC, they will come back to PDP that a vote cannot be made. So it is a plus and minus kind of situation. But what I can guarantee you, Malpe, and we can come back to it, 2023 presidential election, we are going to win with a margin not less than 6 million votes.
Well, our colleagues in Lagos, I've got questions for you. Go ahead, guys.
Very much, Chamberlain. Certainly good to see Mr. Boala again, especially in that outfit, really. But some of the points you made, I'd like to just get clarity on them. So, I mean, you talked about this being maybe water under the bridge, the fact that you were in the APC when all of these things were happening. And I think for a lot of people, it will raise questions about your person, your convictions. Is your job just to market whatever products you get, whether or not you believe in that product or you think that product is doing the right thing? And I think it will raise a lot of questions. Perhaps it's the case as well with this current candidate you're marketing. I hope in a few months or years you won't come out and say, well, they didn't do well and there's been a lot of issues and all of that. But just to get the figures right, you said that this government has produced more corrupt people, and I'd like to give a figure to that. If you say that this government has produced a lot more corrupt people, how many would you say those corrupt people are compared to those you believe were produced during the time of the PDP, just to get that out of the way?
All right, so good. First of all, with one point you made about, somebody was there and he won't come tomorrow and say he moved. I'm sure you were somewhere before you joined channels. And I don't think as optimistic as you are, you assume that you will retire in channels.
We're talking about politics and governance. There are two different things, Mr. Boala.
Can you permit me to answer the question?
I mean, it's not fair to compare that. This is about politics, governance. You're seeking the votes of people, Nigerians, to govern.
Don't speak. You have asked. Let me answer, Mr. Kekiolu. You have asked. Give the fair chance for the individual to answer. So that's the point. You were in a relationship you thought was going to work. It never worked. You are happily married today and you are moving on. You are not regretting that you were once in a relationship you thought was going to work, which never worked. So we dismiss that one. With respect to the corruption that I mentioned, look at it this way. This is a political party who anchors their policy on social intervention of government, right? So virtually everything that they borrowed, they invested into what they call social interventions. On all the occasions that the National Assembly have summoned either of the heads of these implementers, people who executed this project, to come and show data and give them, evidence to suggest that the programs were successful. Do we start with the 52 billion of that intervention in 774 local government? Has the head of that place been able to furnish the data? Do you know what they gave as excuse? That they couldn't give that to the National Assembly because the data contained the names, bank account, and the BVN of the individuals. How absurd it is, because the National Assembly has a Congress that by law can look at even national classified document of national security.
Was actually quite clear.
Intervention.
I was asking that you give a figure. I mean, not maybe give instances, a figure. 100 corrupt people who were produced during this government compared to 80 during the time of the PDP. Just a figure, except you don't have the figures.
So this is the point.
And I would like the source as well.
No, this is a point. Alleged corruption cannot be quantified in a figure because it is only when the code of law...
No, you said it particularly that this government has produced more corrupt people. So I imagine you have figures to back that up, except you're saying you don't have the figures.
The trouble I have with you, Kayode, is that except if you are trying to make a point, if you're asking me a question that demands an answer, give me the time to answer the question without interjecting.
I think I've given you fair enough time. You could say it's 100 or
so that's
20. That's the question. What is the figure? How many do you know about? Is it 20? Is it 100?
I just answered by saying determination of the numbers of corrupt people is made only after there is a conviction.
So how did you come to the conclusion that there are more corrupt people in this government?
The point we are
if you don't have the figures?
The point, okay, I think what I'll do is I'll also interject. Probably one of us will get tired.
No, it's trying to get the facts. You know, don't try to pull this
based on what has not been able to be.
Give us the figures.
We are
if you do
because
have them.
There is no finding by the National Assembly on the corrupt allegation or corruption allegation that has so far been brought to the National Assembly about the many social interventions of government, ranging from school feeding, ranging to anchor borrowers, and all of this. We are not even talking about somebody who was arrested as a former accountant general, 100 and something billion. We are not even, there are quite a number that needless to begin to count. We are making a case. If they have a counter view, let them come up and give their counter view. But the point is being made that this administration allegedly has produced more corrupt people than any administration in the history of the country.
All right, we need to go. I think that's the way it came across, as though you had already come to that conclusion. But when you say allegedly, perhaps that suffices. But, you know, before you went to Lagos, you did say that this election, with the introduction of BVAS, is going to be determined by how people vote and what people do on the day. No amount of big man can affect what happens there. So that presupposes that it counters what you said previously when you say, where is Amechi, where is Oshibajo, where is Babachir Lawal? So whether or not those people are on the same page, it is what happens on the day. No, but the point on the voting day.
Yeah, but with reference to Osibanjo, you're talking about energy at the time. You're talking about movement. So I was trying to tell you that for them, it portends more danger because those individuals that work. In fact, let me even make the case. Amechi delivered Buhari as a president twice. And so Amechi has the capacity to convince people. So there's no contradiction there. The point is, if they claim they have energy or they have a movement with ecstasy and excitement, we are saying that the people that work for them in 2019 today are disillusioned.
All right, so there you go. Still a long road to victory for all the political parties who are campaigning, because you have up till February. Right. So don't worry, there'll be several opportunities for us to have all of this. And I mean, as a matter of fact, the people will have a huge say. Don't worry, just keep it locked. We'll do that and have that happen. So Mr. Daniel Bola is a spokesperson for Atiku Ogawa Presidential Campaign Organization at the PDP, clearly. Thank you for coming on and all the best. Well, we do have some feedback coming through. I think we'll have some time to take them, hopefully. This one comes through from Henry Okeke, who says, talking about 2023 elections, the politics of hired crowd and rallies may not reflect on voting proper in 2023. Nigerians, he says, all over the world are looking forward to a new leadership that is based on economic emancipation and national integration. I think new there, it's a little tricky when you say new, but that's what he says anyways.
Well, Chris Organet says, while everyone is concentrating on the current rise in dollars as a result of much Naira in exchange for dollars, I wonder how the BDCs will later exchange these old Naira notes for the new Naira in the banking system, considering the directive to banks not to accept above 250,000 Naira deposit without knowing the customer so well. Also, don't we think it will get to a point where after January 15, a few Naira will be available for spending with so much dollar in circulation if the CBN can also stop usage of dollars for purchases and services within the country? He also thinks that Naira might become scarce. Who knows?
Okay. Well, if it is something that has happened before, who says it can't happen again? Francis Osedume is concerned about Naira redesigning as well. At a time when the government is grappling with high fiscal deficit, debt crisis, severe revenue crisis, and underfunding of many government projects and programs, it is most inappropriate to embark on such a profligate exercise, considering the cost of redesigning and printing the new notes, which will be a serious dent on CBN's balance sheet.
Well, so many messages on this Naira. After all, it's the Naira, right? It's the money in your pocket and your bank account. Take a look at this one. A tweet from Festus Sekimboyewa talking about the redesigning of the Naira notes. He believes that they should be applauded and not condemned, despite the fact that digital cashless payment is increasing in our country. Many people still depend on cash, but CBN must ensure innovative and secure banknotes that connect with all Nigerians, he says.
Well, I mean, we welcome comments from everyone, and we appreciate that everyone is entitled to their opinion, and we respect that. Well, that is the show today. We thank you all for watching. We will see you again tomorrow. Until then, I am Chamberlain, so have a very good day.
Thank you very much. We wish you a fantastic week ahead, especially with the way the Monday has started. Thank you for watching. I'm Maokwe Yusuf.
Well, we'll be bringing you the traffic situation in Lagos, especially with this talk about a strike from some certain transport unions. I see Chamberlain chuckling there. You think you've escaped, right? We'll get you. I'm Kayode Okikili.
Wherever you are, wherever you are in Lagos, in Nigeria, make the best of it for the nation. I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful rest of your day.